What is going on, you guys? Bashtian here, and I'm back with another Before You Buy video. So this time we're going to be tackling the Therion archetype. Therions have been getting a lot of hype, especially with the ABC variant that is coming out. So that's going to be the next video on the channel. If you guys go ahead and subscribe down below, that way you'll be able to get the notification when the video finally drops. But without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get right into the Therion. Before you buy, we have a lot to cover in this video, starting off with deck profile. Actually, we're going to be doing a quick deck profile before we get into the pros. Just want to go ahead and I guess kind of shake things up a little bit, kind of reveal a little bit more of my thought process behind this. So first things first, real quick deck profile for it. I played triple of Therion King Regulus, triple of your Therions Borea, triple of the Jewel, phenomenal card, triple of the Fam, and then double Ein. So Ein and Fam are the ones I was debating if I should play 2 or 3 of. I decided to go ahead and play 3 of the Fam just because I thought it was a little bit more versatile as well. Also, it kind of looks like a virtual monster, which, you know, kind of near and dear to my heart from way back. But anyway, so I think these are going to be probably the best. Again, we're analyzing pure Therions today. So this is the deck profile for just pure Therions. We'll again take a look at the ABC version at a later time. So anyway, if you're going to be playing pure Therions, it's definitely going to be the best route to go ahead and go as far as your ratios are concerned. Again, if you're going to play just 2 Fam and 2 Ein, I'm definitely go ahead and continue. I'm for that as well. And as well as some other tech choices you have down here as well, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Also, for the hand traps that I want to go ahead and play in this deck, of course, it's going to be triple Ash, double Ghost Bell, triple Ghost Ogre, but what I also like playing this deck is double Chaos Hunter. So I don't really see anyone playing this card, but you do have trade-in in the deck, so taking advantage of high-level monsters is something that you can very easily do. Also, Chaos Hunter is a really good card as well, basically not allowing your opponent to specials to banish, which is really good, and you have to discard a card as well as cost, which you need Therions in the graveyard regardless, so it does help fuel up that part of the engine as well. So those are hand traps I wanted to go ahead and go with. I think it's really good, especially with the Despia matchup as well, not allowing them to banish and further on with their plays with cards like Albion, with the Shrouded Dragon, things like that. Also, not being able to allow the Sword Soul Taie to go off, and not able to have Tri-Brigade go off. You're pretty much stopping, hindering, I should say, the Prank Kids as well. So it pretty much tackles a little bit of each of the top meta decks at the current moment. Also, pretty much it destroys the Fluandre's matchup, so you're good to go as far as that goes, and so on and so forth. Eldritch, things like that. So overall, I think Chaos Hunter is pretty much overlooked in this current format, but again, only time will tell. Now on to the spells. I want to play triple of the Perpetual Engine Igiro system. That's a long name, but it's a really good card. Basically what it is an archetype Foolish Burial, which is actually phenomenal. Really good. Triple trade-in, again, just being able to dump a Therion into the grave. We're going to need to get Therion into the grave, and that's another reason why Ghost Ogre is actually so important, because she is a psychic type monster. So that essentially means that Therion's Duke Jewel now has another target it can potentially have as well. It doesn't necessarily just need to have a Therion in the grave, so just a little bit more versatility for you as well. I couldn't really find any real good what's it called, other machine monster I could put in here for Regulus, or any plant monster that I wanted to play for Borea, even though these two are potentially the best ones to actually summon. And then Jewel is probably going to be the best one to actually equip, in my personal opinion. But regardless, back to the spells. Triple trade-in, triple of the Therion's Charge, basically another trade-in essentially for yourself. You get to send a Therion or a Perpetual Engine system to the grave and draw 2 cards only once per turn. Really good as well. 1 Terraforming, because a field spell pretty much searches whatever Therion you want when it's activated, so really good as well. Foolish Burial, again, you need the Therions in the graveyard. And then 2 of one of each of the traps, 1 of the Therion's Cross and another one of the Therion Stand-Up. Therion's Cross actually reminds me a lot of a Battle and Boxer card called Jolt. Jolt Counter, which is pretty similar artwork, so I thought that was pretty cool to point out as well. Two other cards that you may want to consider if you're going to be playing this deck is triple Pot Prosperity and then triple of the Infinite Impermanence. So you don't really have much back row that you're actually using with this deck, so Infinite Impermanence gives you that little bit of extra added mystery that you could use for your potential plays, and interrupting your opponent's never a bad thing. And then Pot Prosperity, again, being able to search for specifically the field spell or the Regulus, just so you can go ahead and make sure that you're able to summon out your best monster in your entire deck. Now the deck already has enough searchability, so you don't even need to get into that, but that's going to be it for the deck profile, guys. Essentially, as far as the extra deck is concerned, it's pretty irrelevant, which is really good, especially for the specific archetype. So let's do a quick skim right here. Axico Talker, Appaloosa, Big Eye, Flare Dragon, Dingirsu, number 38, Zombie Vampire, and 2 AA Zeus. But that's going to be it for the deck profile, guys. Now let's go ahead and analyze some 3 pros and 3 cons for the deck before you buy. We're going to start off with 3 pros. So the first pro I really see with this deck is that all of these Therion monsters have the exact same shared effect, or very similar shared effect, where you can target a Therion monster or Aqua, Warrior, Machine, Plant, Psychic, depending on which Therion you're using, but essentially you're going to go ahead and choose one Therion monster in your graveyard and special summon this card, and if you do, equip that monster to this card. So that already makes it extremely easily summonable monsters already from your hand, and they're all high level, really big monsters, essentially 2800, 2400, 2100, 2100 as well. As the only weak one, I guess, Fam, but it does have a really good effect as well. So, and also, once they all have another shared effect, is that the Therion that is equipped to the Therion on the main monster zone, Therion equipped, gives its effect to the Therion that is in the main monster zone. So that's extremely good as well. I absolutely love that. So you can easily make the Therion King Regulus not only being a nuisance, being able to just negate effects on your opponent's turn and your turn as well, but you can also make it indestructible by card effects through Jules effect, making it absolutely just fantastic as well, making it that much more of a boss monster. And then the field spell as well, let me get into that. The field spell also gives it protection from battle, so just overall amazing effects overall. Again, extremely easy to summonable monsters, and you can easily just go ahead and abuse just one Therion, sending it to the grave and special summoning it again, because there's no restriction as to which Therion you can target in your graveyard, so you can easily go ahead and activate Regulus. If your opponent activates something, chain its effect. Now you have a Therion in a graveyard, then you go ahead and activate Fam or Borea or Ain, and again, target the same Therion in the graveyard, use special summon it, use it for its effect. You can just keep abusing it over and over again, making this absolutely just insane. Pro number 2, guys, is that this deck is wildly consistent. So I've already talked about a lot of these search cards you already have in the deck. You have your in-archetype trade-in, you have trade-in, the field spell which searches a Therion, and you have an in-archetype Foolish Burial, which is exactly what you need to go ahead and get your plays started. This deck is wildly consistent, which is something that I would not personally expect from a deck where the lowest level monster is a level 7, and in the entire deck except for your hand traps. So I think that's something that's really cool, something we can definitely look into this deck a little bit more. Maybe some more cards that actually work with higher level monsters, but the consistency in this deck is just absolutely off the charts. As long as you're able to get a Therion in the graveyard, you are set for life, my friend. So that's where cards like Chaos Hunter, Trade-In, Therion's Charge, and the aggro system or RGO system really come into effect. So essentially you have 3, 6, 9, 11 ways to go ahead and get a 12, sorry, with Foolish Burial to get a Therion card into the graveyard turn 1. And with that, you should have just enough firepower to go ahead and make sure that you're consistently being able to go ahead and get your Therion monsters out there as soon as possible, and with greatest of ease as well. And the last pro I'll go ahead and give this deck is actually really cool. So this deck actually plays around a lot of really popular hand traps. It completely plays around cards like Lancia. It completely plays around cards like Ghost Ogre. It plays around cards like the Ghost Bell. plays around Nibiru really easily. You don't really need to summon a lot with this deck, which is another thing, another pro I should say for this, is that you don't need to use your extra deck whatsoever. The extra deck is just there because it looks cute, and because every now and then it might be nice to go ahead and go into Access Code Talker, or you may need to get rid of some random BS, so you go into Nightmare Unicorn. But overall, I mean, I played around this deck for a little bit now, and I've very rarely felt the need to go into the extra deck, and it felt a lot more like you're just going for style points at that point. So I think that's something that's really cool in order to think about, as well as that you don't really get bothered by cards like Scythe or Summon Limit or, you know, things like that. You can pretty much just do your own thing. And also, because all of these are different types, you can also play cards like there can be only one in this deck as well. So that's something, that's another spicy tech you can go ahead and play. Overall, this deck is absolutely fantastic, but as we do in all these before you buy, guys, we have to go ahead and pull out 3 cons for this deck as well. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it was extremely difficult to actually find cons for this deck. Overall, I think it's extremely fun, it's extremely fast-paced, or it can be. I think that the overall deck itself is very amazingly synergized overall, and I think it has an extremely high ceiling. However, being said that, there are still some cons that we do need to go ahead and go through. Starting off with con number 1, the graveyard reliance. So I've already talked about how essentially you need a Therion in the graveyard, or a type that is corresponding with what that Therion specifically needs in order to be special summoned. The issue with that is if you're not able to get a Therion or a type that the Therion needs into the graveyard, then the deck is dead, essentially. So that's what's really the main issue with this deck is, let's say your opponent plays a card that sends every card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. Virtual World Shenshin and Dimension Shifter, 2 cards that are still very popularly used in our current meta. Shenshin a little bit less, I want to say, just because Virtual World is kind of a lot lower on that totem pole of meta decks compared to a deck like Fluandereeze, but is very splashable and is not restricted to its own archetype. It's a card, I should say, that any deck can go ahead and play because it has no restrictions whatsoever. That's why Virtual Shenshin may see a lot of play coming up in the near future as well. Just being able to not have any Therions in the graveyard, I think DD Crow is going to be a much better hand trap as well. Instead of sending a Therion to the graveyard, you go ahead and banish it as well. So as long as you're able to go ahead and continue banishing your opponent's Therion cards from the graveyard, or preventing them from being in the graveyard on any targets, then you have nothing to fear with this deck. So that's a really big con for the deck, unfortunately, but no great deck is without its flaws. The second con of the deck, guys, is that it doesn't start off as quickly as most decks. This is more of a snowball mid-range deck than it is a turn 1 or grindy deck. So essentially, if your opponent is able to go ahead and out the first Therion you have, or in case that you are able to get a Therion the very first turn, deck very much has to rely on its hand traps to go ahead and keep it alive, which is something that I'm not too big of a fan of, but that does not mean that the deck is going to do bad in any sense of the way. I mean, essentially, you look at the best deck essentially in this format, Branded Despia, who doesn't have the most wild turn 1 board, but is still a very consistent mid-range deck. And that's exactly where I think the Therion lies, is that it's not going to make the craziest turn 1 board, but it's going to make enough to where you're going to have to play around it, and if it gets into that mid-range grindy semi-grindy game, you are gonna be in for a lot of trouble with this deck. The last con for the deck, guys, is a bit of a reach, but it's something that is noteworthy, is that Therion King Regulus does not negate and destroy, it just negates. And it being your pretty much main source of interruption negation, you're really gonna be left with not gaining card advantage through your negation, which is a bit of a shame, unfortunately, but it's still a really good card. And the fact that you can still negate something and have it be protected by a Therion's Duke, I think is absolutely fantastic as well. So there you have it, guys. We have analyzed 3 pros and 3 cons from the pure Therion deck coming out of Dimension Force within the next week or 2, depending on when this video goes up. But now time for the verdict. Honestly, this deck, it was hard enough to find a con to where I believe this is definitely going to be a tier 1 deck right off the bat. Maybe not pure, but I definitely know mixed with ABC is going to be absolutely just fantastic. And we'll see what other decks come out there. I know there's some plant versions as well, so that's going to be really cool as well. There's some psychic versions with the punk archetype as well, so I can't wait to explore those options as well. But overall, as a pure variant, if you are looking to keep it more pure, I still believe it's going to be a fantastic deck moving forward. And even pure version, it'll be a tier 2 deck at the very worst. Therions is a phenomenal strategy, has a lot of consistency, some high powered main deck monsters, a lot of in-archetype staples, which is absolutely unheard of, and in-archetype trade-in, or basically Pot of Greed at that point, because of how much advantage you're gaining, and an in-archetype Foolish Burial, which is something I have not seen before as far as that much firepower for just one deck. So if you guys did enjoy, go ahead and let me know in the comments section down below. Leave a like for more videos. If you guys are excited for Therions, you're going to be playing the pure Therions, punk Therions, ABC Therions, whatever Therions you're playing, let me know in the comment section down below, guys. Subscribe for more. Now go ahead and see you guys in the next one.